the definitions of positive anticipation. Feel free to ask me questions or stop me as we go along, or even if it's something that you identify with and you want to add to it, I enjoy that too. So the definitions: positive, explicitly stated or expressed. And then I also took a couple of synonyms that I thought were pertinent to what we're talking about with the riding, which confident, decisive, and convinced. And then anticipation, which I think is a perfect definition for what we are talking about: realization in advance. So how can we encourage our horses to be confident in what they are realizing in advance, what we want for them to do, so that we can operate more as a unit and with less manipulating and more flow? So the mindset for riding in a positive way, and this is taken from a while back, a webinar that we did on positive and defending aids, but the mindset for riding in a positive way, some things that I like to remind myself as I go along in the event that I get mixed up, are my horse is trying to figure out what I want him or her to do. I want to really have my focus on the path of travel, and I want to ride with purpose on that line. My horse will feel that direction. So oftentimes, if we're riding a young horse or we're starting to do new exercises and we take the horses off the wall, you'll feel hesitation. You'll feel that they're less forward. And that's because we're thinking when they go down the wall, they're going down the wall. They know to go down the track. They know to turn the corners. They're in an arena. Of course, that's what you do. But when you go on a diagonal or down a center line, then there are many possibilities of things that they could do. So we need to be a little bit more in charge and a little more positive in those times. So we want to be really looking on that line and riding with purpose with our center on that line. We want to know what we want from our horse before we apply the aid. And this is for several reasons. One is so that as soon as they start to do what we want, we can quickly reward. But the other reason is that we want to set ourselves up to be ready. Was it going to feel like when they do it right? So we want to know what we want before we apply the aid, and we want to expect our horses to do it. We're going to look for that answer so we can come quickly to the reward. We're going to work hard at not nagging. We want to keep ourselves from nagging. So we need to say what we need to say, and then we need to get out of the way. Get to the praise as soon as possible. This really creates a horse that has positive motivation when we are praising them as fast as possible, and we're not kind of, drilling things over and over again, or even focusing on the mistakes. We want to be careful not to do that. And then keep the connection with your horse. If you lose the rein, seat, or leg consistency, replace it with your voice and, if possible, with body language. So it is possible that we can make mistakes, and maybe our rein contact is not as perfect as we would like it during certain exercises or when we're starting to do something new. But we can override that with our voice by praising the horse So that it knows, even though I lost a little connection, even though I lost my balance, you are doing the right thing. You keep doing that. So we want to focus on that positive praise. We want to keep that positive connection and reward. We don't want to focus on our mistake, because that's going to reflect to our horse, and they are not going to think they did the right thing. Want to be careful about that. So as much as we can, we keep that positive connection. We ride with the best skills that we can. If we make a mistake, we want to override it with a positive body language, a positive voice that helps the horse to stay confident that they did the right thing, even though we lost a little bit of our balance. And then we want to be careful not to put too many restrictions on the answer, especially in the warming up process, right? That we ask and we reward for that positive answer. But in the beginning, we're not saying you have to do this, but it needs to be like this and this and this. We want you to give a forward answer to our legs, for instance. I'm not going to put a lot of restrictions on that when I first get on, when I first start warming up. And the same with the reins. I want the horse to accept the reins through the body, and be able to flex a little right and left, be able to wait and stretch the neck, for instance. But I'm not going to put too many restrictions on how collected the horse is, or am I doing lateral work right away, or anything like this. I want to be careful, especially in the warm-up, that I'm getting the right answers first before I start putting things together. And I really want to have that feedback from my horse, that they understand each aid. Also, before I start putting things together, such as lateral work or transitions close together or more collection, things like that. Be in the present. Although it is necessary to honor the present strength and level of understanding of your horse, it's better to be present in how your horse presents and reacts today, rather than to think about the past. So we are talking about positive anticipation, and the idea that our horse, that we're telling them mentally how to get ready and how to do things for us with their body, but because their mind understands what we're asking. So this has to build day after day, week after week, month after month. So we need to be in the present. If our horse comes out and the weather is crazy, or something's going on in the arena that is distracting, or they didn't get turned out today, or didn't get ridden for a couple days, we need to honor those things. We have to be there with them in where they present themselves today. But we do also have to know what is our horse's present strength level, or and how have they been working up till this time, so that we can create the lesson that's going to be the most successful for today. Want to be looking at the future. What is our goals? We're picturing how that's going to be. The work we're going to do today is going to build toward that, but we're always riding the horse that shows up in the ring on this particular day. And that way our horses are always present. They're not thinking too much about where the next horse show is or what the next lesson is. So they also help to keep us with what's going on right now. Appreciation, not expectation. I really think that's a place where we can get into trouble, where we in a positive expectation, or can also be a negative expectation. So we want to appreciate our horse's point of view, and teach them through any kind of negative expectations that they have about the work. We really want to teach them through that. And then we also don't want to just show up and expect everything to go perfectly, and then we don't take that time to explain what the lesson is today, to explain what we expect from them, and to explain or warm them up in a way that's leading them in a good way for the lesson at hand. So appreciation of their point of view, of their life as it stands on this day, when whatever they experience, and not expectation, is really going to help us to start that lesson off in a good way. And if you start the lesson and things you thought were in a certain way, and then other things are coming up, or resistances or such, that we take that moment to look around and to analyze, is there something that I missed actually, physically with my horse, or with the tack or whatever? Is there something I missed that's causing these resistances today, and that I can work through that in a positive way, and not just all of a sudden turn the lesson into something negative. We want to visualize our best self riding. So we want to be very careful that any kind of negativity that we bring down on ourselves is going to be felt by our horses. So even if we're saying that it's, that's my fault, I made that mistake, I did that wrong, if our body language is reflecting mistakes, if our body language is reflecting frustration or impatience, even if it's with ourselves, the horse is going to feel that and become less free and less understanding about what we want. So we want to be careful about that too. And then you want, if you do get stuck, hey, Lissa, hi, Meg, welcome. If we do get stuck and you're working on something that seems to be very stressful, or your horse is responding in a negative way or in a resisting way, then sometimes breaking things down into smaller bite-sized pieces, or even changing the subject altogether, can help to move the lesson into a more positive place. And I think that for me, that letting go when you get into a place of stress is really something that, as riders and trainers, we need to learn how to do, and then feel comfortable and confident that it's the right thing to do. So I grew up with trainers with that mindset that, you can't let your horse get away with that. You need to end on a positive note. It's really important, to finish that job. And so sometimes when my horses would get confused or resistant, and I would get myself stuck in that hole, I really would not leave it, because, that's how my trainers were. And I probably didn't have the toolbox that I have now, as far as different exercises and better ways to explain things. I definitely have a bigger box of tools now for that. But I also have realized that sometimes just changing the subject and doing something that your horse finds to be more fun, and easier and get them back participating in the lesson can really be the best way. And maybe you'll get back to that subject in that same ride, or maybe you don't approach it again until tomorrow. But once a horse is nervous, the learning stops. Once the horse is got that stress and that adrenaline and that resistance going on, all the learning stops. So somehow, whether it's to change the subject or to make that job easier or find an exercise that explains what you want but in a different way, is really going to turn things around. And don't feel that pressure to address that same exact movement in that ride. It's probably not necessary. You'll find by explaining it in a different way, getting the horse's body to open up in a different way, you might approach it again the next day or in a couple of days, and everything will feel much easier. And really trying to force something that the horse is not understanding over and over again is really going to make the horse understand how hard it is and how much it doesn't want to do it. So does anybody have any questions about those